Hello and welcome everybody to the Play-by-Play Sports Broadcasting Network on the radio today. You know, in Philadelphia sports recently and all around the country as well, nationally, there's been a lot of moves lately, but let's talk about Philadelphia and the Philadelphia Eagles to start this one off. The Eagles going into the season with high expectations. They're expected by many, if not most, to really be in contention for this division as well as for the Super Bowl title. And then still, it's up there in debate. Carson Wentz, he's looking good in training camp, but is he actually going to be able to lead this team further, or is the departure of Nick Foles going to hurt? We're also going to get into a little bit of the Sixers. Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, that debate still up there. Should Jimmy Butler have left? Did they pay too much for Tobias Harris? We'll get a bit into that. Ben Simmons, saw the new video of him shooting some jumpers out there. Looked pretty good. Will he actually be able to do that in an NBA game, though? And finally, the Phillies. Yesterday, they made a move. They got Corey Dickerson. He's been rattled by injuries this season. Had a big night the other day. But we'll see. Is this a move that's going to work? Is Matt Klentak doing enough? We'll see. I mean, personally, I think that this team is not in contention right now to trade top prospects. They should not be trading top prospects because they're not going to be in a World Series contention. This is not a team that can compete with the Braves really for the division. Maybe they get a wild card, but they're not going to be beating the Dodgers, the Braves, even the Cubs. So we'll get into that. And is Matt Klentak, is he doing enough? And then is Gabe Kapler, of course, is he managing this team properly? So we'll see. So let's just start off with the Eagles. Kobe, let me go first.
Yeah, Eagles preview. I mean, Vegas says that the over-under win total is around 10.5 games. I think that they can fulfill that. I think they can win the division. I think they can win the NFC East over the Redskins, Cowboys, and Giants, although I don't think the Giants are really a contender. I think the Eagles have really good depth. I think Carson Wentz will have a bounce-back season. He's looking good in training camp. According to head coach Doug Peterson, they've got newly acquired running back Jordan Howard. I think they've got really good depth at the wide receiver position with Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, Nelson Aguilar, and newly drafted wide receiver from Stanford, J.C. Arcega-Whiteside. Of course, they got Zach Ertz, and I think the defense is looking pretty good with depth too, with Brandon Graham, Malik Jackson from the Jaguars, Fletcher Cox, of course, possibly a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, and I think they're looking really good.
You mentioned depth a lot, but it's just the depth at quarterback position. Is that nervous for you? I mean, right after Carson Wentz, he's faced injuries a lot recently. Does that concern you, especially when you have someone like Nate Studfeld back there who's really not experienced as much? You have Clayton Thorson. Some people say he could have been a higher draft pick if he played a more competitive program other than Northwestern, but he hasn't looked great in training camp. And then you have Cody Kessler, maybe Greg Ward could come back and play if it's really needed. But just the depth at quarterback really concern you?
Yeah, I mean, that is the big question, depth-wise, because Carson Wentz is injury-prone. Obviously, he had torn ACL before Nick Foles went on to win the Super Bowl that year against the Patriots. They've got an unproven backup in Nate Sudfeld, the third-year quarterback out of Indiana. So we'll see how Carson Wentz does. But I think that, that he's going to have a good season. I think that hopefully he doesn't get injured this year, and he'll lead his team to playoffs and possibly further.
Now, when it comes to the Eagles for you, what do you think the expectations should be?
I think Vegas got it right. 10.5 is right where they should be. First of all, they have arguably the best offensive and defensive line combo in football. You have 3 all-pro caliber linemen, including Andre Dillard, an excellent offensive tackle out of Washington State who they drafted. The defensive line, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Derek Barnett. They also, of course, brought in Malik Jackson from Jacksonville. And the quarterback, Carson Wentz, when healthy, is a top 10 guy in this league. They upgraded at running back. Jordan Howard is a notable upgrade over Jay Ajayi. Also, let's go to the receiving core. Alshon Jeffrey, Nelson Aguilar. They got Deshaun Jackson, a great deep threat back. Zach Ertz is a top 3 tight end in the league. They've got the talent, and the main reason I like them over Dallas, I trust the coach QB combo of Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz more than I trust the coach QB combo of Jason Garrett and Dak Prescott. I think they're a division winner, and I think they could easily get to the NFC Championship.
You seem pretty convinced on this offensive line. Does it concern you that, I don't know, maybe that Jason Peters has really been ravaged by injuries? Andre Dillard, we haven't seen what he did. Jordan Mailata, we saw him in training camp today. They said Josh Sweat was just beating him up, and maybe that project isn't working out. There's a depth on the offensive line, especially with Brandon Brooks having an injury. Maybe you're going to see Sayamalo, and they said Sayamalo in there. You may have to see Wiz at right guard to start the season. We'll see, especially because there's a lot of injuries that's faced this offensive line, and does that concern you at all?
Well, I mean, Jason Peters, sure he's aging and injured, but he's still a top-end left tackle. Andre Dillard, I think he fell in the draft further than he should have. I think Houston should have taken him. They took an offensive tackle that wasn't quite as good. And then we have 3 All-Pros up front. That really impressive. Again, alongside Dallas and Pittsburgh, one of the best lines. There are some depth concerns. Again, this is a team that's cross your fingers they stay healthy. Injuries could derail this team, but when healthy, this offensive line is one of the best in football. Carson Wentz is a top 10 quarterback, one of the most talented QBs in football. When healthy, this is a team that is an 11, maybe 12-win team.
Yeah, and Doug Peterson, Jeff Stoutland have said they do not want Andre Dillard to play guard, so it'd either be Wisniewski if Brandon Brooks not start the season, or Halapui Vaitai. So let's switch to basketball now. And when it comes to the Sixers, do you think they made the right moves this offseason? They couldn't keep Jimmy Butler, didn't seem like he wanted to stay. I think they did enough in the offseason by acquiring Al Horford, Josh Richardson, Trey Burke recently. What about, they made some smaller moves in the draft, Matthias, they say, or whatever. Do you think they did enough this season?
I think they did a good job. I think, with the loss of Jimmy Butler, they still got Al Horford. Who, they don't play the same position, but I think they got Josh Richardson as well that can fill that position pretty well. No Jimmy Butler, but I think he'll do a good job. But Jimmy Butler, he talks a lot. He's a big talker. Now he's with Miami. I think he'll do well in Miami. But I think the Sixers are looking good for the season. With Ben Simmons, hopefully he can get that jump shot down. That will be the big question. Obviously, some videos have came out with some pickup games of him improving. Obviously, they got Tobias Harris, but the big question there is, did they sign him for too much money? He's actually being paid $500,000 more than Kawhi Leonard is with his new deal with the Clippers. So we'll see where that goes. But I think Tobias Harris is a good player. They acquired a lot for him with the trade from the Clippers. I think they got some good young talent depth-wise. They got Matisse Thybulle, who could be a good D and 3 player, a really tough defensive guard. They got Kyle Quinn from the Indiana Pacers, Zaire Smith, who really proved himself in the summer league, a second-year guard out of Texas Tech. So we'll see what happens, but I think they're looking pretty good this year.
The shooting concern you lost J.J. Redick. Jimmy Butler was really the only guy who could really make a shot last year from outside of the paint in the playoffs. So, this team was not doing well shooting-wise in the playoffs, especially with the struggles of Ben Simmons and even Joel Embiid at times in Toronto and the Nets series. So is the shooting concern you, even with the reacquisition of Mike Scott?
That is a concern, I think, for me. But I still think inside the paint, obviously with the combo of Al Horford and Joel Embiid, I think they're going to dominate inside with rebounds in the paint. I think they're going to do really well there. Shooting, we'll have to see. Ben Simmons, we'll see if he'll be a good shooter this year. That's going to be a big question. But I don't think that's going to be a big concern. But we'll see.
Any last thoughts from you?
I agree. Look, the East is really easy. I think outside of Milwaukee, there's no real tough threat. Again, Ben Simmons shooting is a concern, but they got a couple bigs in Horford and Embiid. Simmons is still a really good point guard. This is a team, I don't think they can beat either the LA teams or the Golden State. I don't think they can win the title, but I think they could definitely win the East and take a big step forward.
Yeah, so we'll see coming up. Eagles-Sixers season starting pretty soon. Hall of Fame game coming up tonight. We'll see. NFL's right around the corner. Sixers right around the corner. That ends it for us today. Thank you for watching. And